Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the post of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, CarrikerChronicles.com. It's where all your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. It's just science, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before I bring on my special guest for today, if you believe Nebraska is going to be 4-0 come Saturday morning, smash that like button. Also, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the content we're putting out here on the Carriker Chronicles. Now, I got a special guest today. I remember my first year I was starting in college. I was a sophomore. He was a senior, kind of terrorizing all the offensive linemen in the SEC. But a little bit more about him. He's a college football Hall of Famer, 3-time consensus All-American. Won the 10 Hendricks Award as the nation's top defensive end. Bednarik Award as the nation's top defensive player. The Lombardi Award as college football's best lineman. And the original, been putting it out for 20 years for now, or giving it out, the original Lott Impact Trophy Award. And I'm actually blessed enough to be on the Lott Impact Trophy panel now. He was also a part of ESPN and ESPN College GameDay's coverage for over a decade. Mr. David Pollack, how you doing, my friend?
I like it. You make me sound really old. The original, the original member of that. But if I was able, I would smash the like button because I think you're going to be 4-0 too.
Oh, dude, I'm excited. I'm excited to get your thoughts on Nebraska football as well. But coming into the season, I could kind of get a feel like the folks on a national level, folks like yourself, we're kind of like Nebraska might be pretty good this year, but we're not sure. What were your thoughts coming into the season on Nebraska?
Georgia when he came to visit, and he came a bunch. So I got to meet him. Obviously, his dad played in the NFL for a long time, and his family. And I'm telling you, I couldn't have been bigger fans. Like, my family loved them, like, just freaking phenomenal people. And so, and I watched him, and I watched his mannerisms, his level-headedness, his faith. Like, I was just like, this dude's a stud. And obviously he chose to go to Nebraska. But as soon as that happened, I just knew what that meant. Because here's the thing. I already knew what Matt Rhule was. Mm-hmm. Matt Rhule, I've seen him for years. I've covered him for years, been around him a ton. Like, his characteristics of his teams are always so fun. And I know you love it. You have to love it as a defensive guy. Like, you have to respect the piss out of it because it's all the things you want. It's toughness. It's effort. It's energy. Like, it's built on the fabric of doing the right thing, like being the right kind of a person. Like, he wants to be a role model. Like, he wants to raise, kids up the right way. And I've seen him do it at Temple and have a 10-win season his second season and have back-to-back 10-win seasons at Temple. I saw him have a 10-win or 11-win season at Baylor in year 3. And I watched the caliber of recruits he did it with. And you just knew he was going to be successful. Now, you didn't know how fast it would take root. But when Dylan chose and he came, and you had a guy now that I know, when you have a quarterback like that, there's not many in the country. They make the running backs better. They make the offensive line better. They make the receivers better. They make the defense better. They make the whole squad better. So I think it was a combination of Matt coming in, but once Dylan agreed to go there, and again, spent a ton of time with him, in his high school career in the state of Georgia here, and he just, I knew he was made of all the right stuff.
So for those who couldn't hear, you cut out for just a split second early on. David was talking about when he met Dylan and his family down at Georgia before he came to Nebraska. Now, Dylan, so far this year, I mean, you never know what you're going to get out of a true freshman. He's 19 years old. He's a teenager, but he's completing 74% of his passes. He has 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Are you surprised that already this young, this early on, he seems to be performing so well?
No, because of the poise, because of he's got the right mindset. Like, if you watch Dylan, there's no panic, and he lives his life kind of like that. So I'm not surprised. He's been around football his whole life, obviously, so it gives him a head start. But he's, again, is Nebraska a situation where you thought he could go in and he can make everybody better right away? Yeah, but I didn't know what that would mean. Could they go beat Ohio State, where player for player you're going to be outranked at almost every single spot? So I've been definitely impressed, not surprised. Am I saying like he's going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate? I think you get your first physical Big Ten matchup this week when stuff starts to get nasty and dirty and ugly, and Illinois got a good defense, a big physical defensive line. I think it's going to get harder. At a conference, I heard Matt Rhule talk about it. He was like, it's a non-conference. It doesn't really mean anything. So I'm interested to see him keep taking shots and keep learning and keep growing, but I don't think he's a guy that's going to blink. The question is when he gets fooled, which he's going to get fooled. Like he's a freshman.
At some point, yeah.
When he gets fooled, how does he respond? I got a great idea of that. I know what's inside the kid's chest, so that's why I think Nebraska is going to have a great situation where they're going to be undefeated going into the Ohio State game. That's how much confidence I have in Nebraska.
7-0. So I was about to ask, what do you feel like? You got Nebraska beating Illinois, so you got them 4-0. So, okay, you got them 7-0. But as we sit here right now, okay, Husker fans are going to love that. And here's what I love about David, because I've watched a ton. You got great content on YouTube as well. You got the family podcast as well. I watch a lot of your stuff. David is honest. Like, he gives his honest opinion. There's no agenda or anything behind it. So that's clearly what you legit believe. But I'm curious, as you sit here right now and you're watching Nebraska, what makes you believe they're going to go 4-0 and 7-0 and you're so confident about it?
It starts with Dylan, but then it goes to the things that you've seen Matt Rhule do in the past. All of his teams play hard. All of his teams play with passion. All of his teams play with discipline. When you go across that front line, by the way, I know I don't have to tell you this, but when you get to Nash, when you get to the big polar bear inside, like love having guys like that are sitting right on the nose, causing havoc, going to make it hard on the defensive side of the line. Getting him to come back this past season with Ty Robinson. Like, and again, knowing Matt Rhule in the past too, like those guys up front, those single-digit numbers and what they mean. Like a lot of people don't know what that means across the country. Like your teammates voted you to be in that spot because you represent everything good about the university. And so I think I worry. The only thing I worry about with the team is I worry about the offensive line. How good are they to continue to dominate? But you look at Matt and look at what they've been able to do going in the transfer portal, getting your leading receiver, your leading rusher, like adding to the roster. And here's the thing, man. I thought with Nebraska, I thought it would be a struggle for Nebraska ever to get back to the glory days again. Like to get back to the 90s. And when you go visit, listen, we're fully aware. Like I've gone all around the country. I've been to every school. You go to Nebraska, it's always a sellout. Like, what is it? Like 400 in a row now. Like
this Friday, yep.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch the fans. And so you know that they deserved respect. But you thought with the recruiting landscape, it would be really hard because not a lot of great high school players come out of Nebraska, okay? Like the majority of the high school great players are coming out of Georgia. They're coming out of California. They're coming out of Texas. So I think you're at a disadvantage. But here's the thing that happened. 1, NIL. 2, transfer portal. Like this changed the whole game of college football. Like you used to go to Nebraska or you used to go to Alabama and sit on the bench for a couple years because you knew when you got your shot, you were going to make a lot of money and it was going to be a lot of championships and good things. Now everybody's like, bro, I ain't going and sitting. Hey, Dylan Raiola, Carson Beck's going to be the quarterback at Georgia? Nah, bro. Like I'm going to go to Nebraska. I'm not going there I want to go because I want to play day one and I'm good enough to play day one. So I think with the changing landscape, man, like, so now you have the national brand that is Nebraska. Matt Rhule has never had that big brand. Like Baylor didn't have that. You know, Temple didn't have that. He coached in Carolina. I don't care about Carolina, but I just think all these forces are going to come together, and that's why I'm going to bet on this squad. I think the Big Ten, it's not strong right now from what we're seeing. Like it's not what I thought it was going to be. I thought Oregon was a national championship contender. Last week was really, really good. Michigan's really, really struggling. Penn State's not going to be a complete team, I don't think. So Nebraska every week, week in and week out with the transfer portal additions, with the young. I mean, even a guy like Ja'Cory Barney. Like every time 17 touches it, I'm like, woof. Like something good can happen. And so I think you just continue to watch the talent on the roster get better with the quarterback, with the physicality, with the toughness, man. There's just a lot of reasons to be excited if you're a Cornhusker.
There's no doubt about it. And I want to ask you, are you surprised it's already happening? Like, and again, we still got to actually win Friday, the 400th consecutive sellout at Memorial Stadium. We got to actually win at Purdue and then Rutgers and Indiana. By the way, those teams look a lot better this year. We got to actually do it. But let's say we are 7-0 going into Ohio State. Are you surprised it's already happening in year 2 under Matt Rhule?
Year 2 is a big year for Matt. Like that's been his typical turnarounds. But here's the thing. There is things that can get in Nebraska's way. Okay. Like Nebraska's not to the point where they're deep like Ohio State. Okay. They haven't stacked class on top of class on top of class. So you guys got to stay healthy. But I think it was a big deal when you got the big polar bear back and he didn't go to the NFL. When Ty didn't go to the NFL, like Now you get to start building some of that recruiting class in. You go to the transfer portal, and we haven't seen them yet, but you get a Florida offensive lineman. You get an Oregon running back. You get a Texas wide receiver. Like, I think all those things start to add up where now we get to build. You've recruited well and just talked about 17. Like, you see guys that are on the roster. So I think there's a meshing of it that's tough. But I think as dominant as it looks so far, no, I didn't expect that out the gates. But if they continue to grow, if they continue with their schedule, now Indiana, you're right. Indiana looks good to start the season.
Yep.
But I do think they're in a talent spot, really set up to succeed. Great coaches, not losing your DC a year ago, which you could have to several locations.
Yep.
So I think all the things are in place, but I do think it's important because of the depth that we have to stay healthy big time throughout the season.
So I actually want to ask you about our offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Before I do that, as I always do, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. So shout out to DPS Concrete Construction. They do a phenomenal job. They're experts in all things concrete and retaining walls. You can check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, Allen Capital Group. These are the people that I've entrusted to do my family's finances for over a decade. When your family's finances are in knowledgeable and trustworthy people's hands like Allen Capital Group, you can sleep much better at night. Check them out at allencapgroup.com. All right, Allen Capital Group, next level solutions for next level needs. A lot's been talked about Tony White, our defensive coordinator, and getting him back was a gargantuan difference maker. What are your thoughts on Tony White? But also, not talked about as much as our offensive coordinator, Marcus Satterfield. And I do feel like Husker fans still have a few question marks about him. What are your thoughts on those two guys?
Well, I like first of all, I'll start with offense because that's what we do. We got Raiola. Okay. Yep. So I'll start there. I love the way we're being aggressive. I love the way we're attacking. What was it, 21 points in 19 plays last week? Like super aggressive, even though the time of possession was clearly the other direction. I like Dylan Raiola. He's not a freak athlete, but we get him outside the pocket. I think that's awesome. Like, move the launch point. Don't make it where it's easy to read where he's going to be. I like the aggressiveness at the end of halves. Like, I think that's amazing. So I'm pleased. I like the running of the football. I think that's the balance that you have on offense has been really good. Listen, I want to be clear. It's not fair to give them a grade now because the season's not over. And you're going to have to be, when you're overmatched, do you have answers to the test? And are you setting guys up for success? So I'm not saying like we're a home run, we're all in, like there's nothing that there's going to go wrong. So, but I do think the balance, the playing multiple guys, spreading it out, being aggressive, moving Dylan around, love what I see. Defensively, listen, it to me, again, I can go back to Matt Rhule anywhere I see him. That's what it looks like. It just looks like a bunch of ace kickers, man. Like, you've got to love that. Like, I've talked about the polar bear. I love that cat. Who doesn't? I'm sure. Like, just a big boy up front that, what was he, like 72-0 in wrestling in high school? Something stupid like that,
undefeated,
by the way.
4 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean.
He actually wrestled this past winter for Nebraska after taking 4 years off, went back and wrestled, made it to nationals.
That's
college
insane.
Wrestling. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yep.
But I think the pass rush up front is good. Do we have to stay healthy? Yes. It's a technique. It's techniques, by the way, up front that it's not always the most fun to play as a defensive lineman. I think you can relate to that. But it's incredibly hard to block that kind of front. It's incredibly hard to know who to block, how you're going to combo, and then you can blitz and you can bring different guys and obviously mess up the numbers advantage that you have for you. So I've been impressed. It's hard to tell too because I think everybody who plays Shador is beating him up, but I think getting him to the ground, getting the pick six, obviously scoring off of it. So I think so far it's been great. Like, listen, I hesitate to say home run, A++, but I think retaining your DC last year was a big deal when he had opportunities to go elsewhere. And then I think when you give a coordinator a quarterback, they become really, really good. And so let's see when he plays better. Isn't it crazy? Like, it's pretty nuts.
Personally, when the time comes, and we're putting the cart before the horse here, when the time comes, I personally think, because it's not my money, we need to throw the whole checkbook at Tony White. And we need to do everything we can when that time comes to keep him here. But I won't put the cart before the horse. So some Husker fans, and I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of in this camp a little bit myself. I love that Husker fans are like, let's take it game by game by game. Okay, I love that mentality. But I almost feel like some people are waiting there just to see if this is real and when. I don't want to say fall apart, but is this real? What would your message be to Husker fans based on what you've seen? And you've clearly watched a lot of this Nebraska team. If they're just kind of waiting for something not so good to happen because that's what they've been trained for years.
Listen, here's what I can say, Adam. I can relate as a Georgia fan. Like, this is exactly what we did for a long time. It was like, when's the shoe going to drop? We're going to be good. I know we're going to be good. Now, listen, y'all ain't been to a bowl game in a while, so it's been frustrating. Like, I get it. Like,
yes.
And you deserve a better product, and you have one now, so let's appreciate it. But here's the thing, man. Like, take it week by week. Like, get excited, support your club like you always do. But it's not always going to be perfect. Like Georgia, Kentucky last week, that was a sloppy game. Like, if you come out and play against Illinois and you struggle and you get the dub, that's all that matters. And sometimes when you're building something, sometimes you're going to take steps backwards, and that's okay. Like, you're going to lose football games, and that's going to happen. I don't think you're going undefeated this season, but I think you've got the right pieces. And let's see now when it does happen, how do you respond? Because I know how Matt Rhule coaches, and I know how he leads, and I know about his heart and his integrity, because that's a great human being, by the way, like a phenomenal human being. And so, like, I know that they're going to be made of the right stuff, but take it as it comes, enjoy the crud out of it. Like, you guys, it's been so much fun to watch Nebraska, Texas, like Miami. Those are teams that are undefeated out the gates. That those teams, college football is jacked up and excited when those teams are good, because they should be good. Like, it's elite. When we grew up, man, it was like, we're not trying to make a bowl game. Like, Nebraska's going to be in the national championship picture, going to be punching people in the mouth. And so I think here's the thing. Take that seatbelt, Adam, strap that puppy on. It's going to be a fun as heck ride. Like, you are going to have an absolute blast, but that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. There's going to be steps backwards sometimes, but you guys are doing everything the right way.
Dude, I'm buckled in, dude. I'm ready for the ride. As far as Miami and Nebraska and Texas being good and loving it, I'm on board with Nebraska and Miami. All right, so let's say, yeah, I said it. Let's say that the floor for Nebraska this year is 6-6 bowl game. Let's say that's the floor, okay? What do you think the ceiling for Nebraska could be potentially for this year?
I think with the schedule, I think Nebraska could make the playoff. Like, I think Nebraska,
okay.
Yeah, I do. I think Nebraska could make the playoff. I don't think when I've seen Michigan, I don't think Michigan's that team that. It's definitely not the team we've seen. I think they took a step back defensively, and then offensively, they're a mess. They're going to go to orgy, and it's not working right now, so I'm not depending on them. The Big Ten obviously has a lot of street cred, and it should. I think the ACC is going to beat up on each other. I think the Big 12, Adam's going to beat up on each other. I think there's so many competitive games. So remember, you get 12 teams in this thing, and 11 teams, because the outside group is going to get one in no matter what. So I think the ceiling 100% is getting to the playoffs, and if I'm a Nebraska fan, that should jack you up.
Last question for you, and I appreciate your time. What are the keys to Nebraska versus Illinois? We know who you have winning, but what's your score prediction?
I do think Illinois has the recipe where they can be a little dirty and physical on defense. Not dirty in a bad way, dirty in a good way. Like, they're going to make you earn it. They can get some stops. They can get to the quarterback. Here's the thing about Illinois: when I watch them, I'm shocked they can't run the football. Like, they don't run the football well, and that's not anything I'm used to seeing. Now, Altmaier's throwing it really, really well, especially for him. I think he's 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but they're a team that I'm just used to pounding the rock, and I think Nebraska's. I think the pass rush is good enough. I think y'all are good enough. I think even if it's a little bit sluggish, I still think it's a 27-14 type game. I don't think Illinois' offense, with a lack of balance, is good enough to take you guys down and get multiple scoring drives together. I know you guys are always going to make them earn it, and then when it gets down in the red zone, can you execute? And you better be physical. The field shrinks. You can't throw the football. I think their lack of balance, I think you get it done. I'll give you 27-14.
He's got Nebraska to win, Nebraska to cover. Altmaier, to your point, he's actually completing 69% of his passes. And Illinois has a 9-1 advantage in the turnover margin this year. That's insane. Okay, so turnover margin is going to be huge. For the fine folks at home, if you want to I'm getting a lot more fan questions. If you want to send fan questions in, you want to recommend fan of the week, okay, to us, you can go to CarrikerChronicles.com. You can go to the home section, contact us. If you want to check out the previous fans of the week, you can go to CarrikerChronicles.com, the highlights section. You can check out the previous fans of the week as well. And Andy Jurassic, all right, he's at the He's at all the games. He's walking around the Carriker Chronicles merch. You can get that at the website too. He's got the green hat on. All right. He's a little straight-faced sometimes, but he's a friendly guy. He only bites Iowa and Colorado fans, so don't worry about that. He wanted me to make a note. Even if he's taking a picture of somebody else, you can still be fan of the week because we're doing 52 of them once per week throughout the entire year. And 3 questions, and then I want to thank David for joining me. Let me know your answer in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen. What's your score prediction for Nebraska versus Illinois? What is Nebraska's ceiling for this year? Is it the college football playoff? And what's your biggest key to the game for Nebraska? David, I want to thank you for taking the time to join me. Where can people find you? What are you currently doing now?
Well, I'm on this YouTube thing, and I don't know what I'm doing, Adam, at all. But I started a YouTube channel, David Pollack in College Football, and just it's kind of cool, man. I got 2 high school kids, baby girl and a son, and just trying to be around as much as possible and enjoy these next 4 years. But there is nothing better than college football and the passion and the pageantry and the fun, man. So still try to get the opinions out. I think part of that, too, because I drive my wife nuts. Last year, she was like, dude, I don't care about your football. Like, go talk to somebody who gives a crap. I don't. So started that YouTube channel trying to figure that world out. I don't know it yet, but I'm learning. Look at you, bro. If a fellow defensive lineman can do it, like I think we can get this done. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm figuring it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's a phenomenal football player in his day. Great analyst. Check him out on YouTube. One of my favorite parts from this interview is when you talked about Nebraska, you used the term we. I love that. That's one of my favorite parts from this interview, man. All right, until next time, Husker Nation, go Big Red. And always remember,
throw them bones.